welcome to WCS Europe Premier League Season 2. Another fantastic crowd comes into the Cologne studios. Fantastic to have all these guys here after a terrific Season 1 where the adopted hometown hero Jürgen claimed the European crown. Can he do it again in Season 2? The round of 16 is about to kick off this evening. Before we get there, though, a few bits of information for you. First up, of course, if you weren't here with us last season, WCS works like this. There are 3 regions: Korea, North America, and, of course, Europe. Ray. They're getting there. Those 3 will play through 3 seasons, of course, and come out with the top 16, who will all go off to represent themselves in the grand final at BlizzCon at the end of the year. Only the top 16 making their way through. Today, however, we're going to start things off with the round of 16. 16 fantastic players have qualified through Europe into 4 groups, as you can see on your screen right now. Group A will take place today, Group B tomorrow, C on Wednesday, and D on Thursday. And as an added bonus, if you come back on Saturday and Sunday, we'll have the round of 8, the round of 4, and the grand final to crown the Season 2 European Champion of WCS. It's also time to introduce you to one more member of our cast this season. We've got an additional man. He is, of course, the wonderful, the awesome, the observer, Adebisi.
Good evening, Redo.
How you doing?
That's good.
A warm welcome to you. You're doing fine. It's WCS, it's round of 16, it's time to hype everything up. Who's hot for you? Who's doing well?
I think hot would have to be MVP. Champion last season, definitely got the bullseye on his back. I think our other finalist from last season as well, Stefano, is the big question mark that everyone's going to be watching too. Going to be retiring soon, definitely would rather go out on a high note than a fizzle.
Yeah, absolutely. What about the 4 Koreans? Are we going to get another case of Koreanitis?
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know how many Europeans will make it to the Grand Slam, but at least 2, I suppose.
All right, okay. Well, thank you very much. We'll see more of Adebisi fairly shortly, of course. He's going to be doing his observing. But before we get to our commentary team, and of course, the next 2 players will be taking part in the round of 16, it's time to show you the 4 players of Group A, as you can see on your screen, with the defending champion, currently ranked number 4 in the world, Jürgen, aka MVP. It's effectively 2 Germans, 2 Dutchmen, if you want to look at it like that. Hassob's also in there, down at 67 right now, alongside Rhett, who is in the round of 16 for the first time. And I cursed him earlier by saying he'd have no chance in this, so presumably he'll go through. And of course, a man who now has probably got more support in this studio than any of the other 3 players. It's Grubby. Incredible. You'd think that with 2 Germans in the round of 16 Group A, they'd get all the support, but not to be. The ever-popular Grubby is the man who is the crowd favourite. Let's take a look at the brackets for you as well. This is how it's going to work in the round of 16. If you're not familiar with it, it's a dual tournament format. We'll kick off this evening with MVP versus Rhett, and then we'll go with Hasselhobbs versus Grubby. The winner of those 2 matches will play each other, and they will play for a place in the round of 8 of the Premier League. The other players will get another opportunity, though, as they drop down into the lower bracket. If you win twice this evening, you're through to the round of 8 at the weekend. It's as simple as that. Don't need any more. Don't forget, you can also interact with us via social media. We'd love to see your tweets. We'd love to see your likes and your comments on Facebook as well. And make sure you check out starcraft2.com/WCS. I know you're already watching on there right now. Interact with us on Twitter using the hashtag #WCS. It's time for our first matchup of the evening. Our Group A game kicks off like this. It's MVP versus Rhett. As you can see, MVP came through his group in the round of 32 with a victory over Alfie and Teffel. We'll see Teffel, of course, in the round of 16. And Rhett had a slightly more difficult route through round of 32 with a 2-0 victory against Thorzane and a 2-1 victory against Baby Knight, sandwiching that defeat against Welmu. So, it's Rhett versus MVP. It's the King of Drones versus the King of Wings. It's time to hand you over to our commentary team for our first match. It is the awesome Apollo and the kick-ass Kalaris.
Thanks very much, Red Eye. Welcome to the commentary desk here. We were there for the round of 32. Now we're here for the round of 16. It's been a while, though, Sean.
That's right. There's been a lot of events in between the WCS round of 32 and round of 16, but we are back finally here to kick things off, or to keep things rolling, should I say, as I'm quite excited for the round of 16. We've got an awesome couple of days coming, and then we're going to wrap it up with the champion by the end of the week. What more could you ask for?
And we'll certainly be fantastic. Last season we had amazing games from round of 16 onwards, even the round of 32, but now here in season number 2, we have some awesome players lined up. Namely, those first 2 players, MVP and Rhett. Rhett in round of 32 almost wished that he had MVP, and well, look where we've got to.
Well, guess who also did that last season, Claris, and didn't work out too well for him? It was TLO. We'll see how things are going to work out now. I've managed to speak with both of the players, and Rhett, actually, we'll talk about Rhett first. He's feeling good. He's actually feeling, you know, almost at his best, which is what he needs to show today. But of course, as you can see on screen, the vetoes are going to begin.
MVP already going for that first veto, highest seed here, and Belshir Vestige will be his choice. A little bit of an interesting choice. Most players fall back on Belshir Vestige as that stable and sturdy map, but MVP getting rid of that right away.
Yeah, and I love Rhett's pick. Just get rid of Neoplanet S. It's a small map. It's very difficult to play against a player who uses Widow Mines. It's very narrow. Of course, when you see Zerglings and Banelings, which is the style we're probably going to see from Rhett come crushing through, Widow Mines do extra damage because it's such a narrow map. Whirlwind, on the other hand, I think this is a decent map to get rid of for MVP. I like it. You know, Whirlwind's a big map.
Oh, yeah.
Rhett will like to play on a big map. I think it's a good pick from MVP.
Yeah, always looking for those engagements in those big areas, what Rhett going for. But then, on the contradictory flip side of that, Derelict Watcher, you would expect it to be an alright for Rhett map for Rhett in terms of going for those engagements in big areas as well. But he gets rid of that. It's a little bit of a tricky map to play on, just in general for every race, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. That's very well said. But as you can see, the 3 maps that were left, we'll be going into them very shortly, but it is time to begin as both players now make their way to the stage, to the WCS Europe stage for the round of 16 of the Premier League. Who's going to kick us off with a win today? Who is it going to be? Who do you think it's going to be? It is, of course, the reigning champion to the left. Versus Liquid Red, who does struggle with consistency, bear in mind. Some days he's good, some days he's hot, some days not.
There's so many factors that actually come into this series as it stands. MVP is one of those players that has actually not really done too much as of late, and the few series he has played in the past month, he's played 3 series in the past month, all against Zerg, and lost against every single one of them. Admittedly, they were Symbol, Koka, and Dongre Gu, which are pretty darn good Zergs, but still, but it's MVP. He always makes it count when it matters.
And this is definitely one of those times. As you can see on screen, this is a best of 3. Every game will be a best of 3. We have 5 best of 3s in a row. And of course, this being the first one. Star Station, Newkirk, and then Red City, the 3 maps that will be going to Red City if needed. Either one of these players could close it out with a 2-0. I think that it will be a 2-0 one way or the other. I don't think it's going to be close. I either think that this guy's just going to, you know, smash Red, or it's going to be the other way around. I don't think we're going to see 3 games today.
MVP here, as I said just before, he's been very quiet outside WCS, only having those 3 series in the past month, which were Intel Extreme Masters qualifiers and WCG. But aside from that, you can never really bet against MVP, and that's shown in his earnings. It's astronomical how much this guy has earned and how much he can make it count, as I said, when it matters before.
He really has been quiet outside of the WCS. He plays in nothing. He's got a GSTL pin on his badge, but he only played 1 game for them the entire of the season, and that was a loss, by the way, against Scarlet. But he really does focus on WCS, and like you said earlier, when it matters, we do see the best out of MVP, but he goes up against Rhett, who only finished in the round of 32 last season, bear in mind.
A player that, when it matters, doesn't necessarily have that consistency that you would see from the likes of an MVP, the likes of a champion caliber player. But Rhett, he's had those results from time to time that make him look absolutely world class when he wants to, when he decides to. It's a really weird hit and miss with Rhett sometimes.
It really is. That is the best couple of words to describe Rhett: hit or miss. Which one is it going to be today? The one thing that does boost his confidence, even though it hasn't been, I mean, I'm sorry, it wasn't, you know, I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, the last time these 2 players played off against each other, Rhett did win. And he's beat him twice in best of 3 series. 2-0 overall. That just said to Rhett, I can do this. I've done it before, even though it was a different game of Wings Liberty, and it was a long time ago. He's done it before, he can do it again.
It's a massive point that you bring up there. The fact that Ret has been able to defeat this man twice, a man that is now impenetrable for other players to go up against, is something that is almost career-defining for someone like Ret here. But now, we are going to move into the first series here, guys, of the round of 16, as we have MVP versus Ret here in Group A. So without further ado, we shall jump into the game, and spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner as our blue Terran, representing LGIM and Korea, he is MVP.
That's right, last season's champion, and oh boy did he represent Europe well in the season finals. Get into the semis, almost beaten out Innovation in a very close TVT series. Could have gone the full distance if it wasn't for Innovation being the best player in the world.
So close, and spawning up to the top left-hand corner here as our red Zerg, representing Liquid and the Netherlands, we have Ret.
Of course, a lot of people coming here. Netherlands not too far away from Germany to support Liquid Red, and of course Grubby today, and Hanzobs as well. You can't forget, can you? You got a great group to kick us off here in the round of 16. Red already starting up with a drone scout, and I think this is very intelligent because MVP, no doubt that, you know, against a Zerg player, a 2 racks is a very, very possible strategy for MVP. You know, if he's not feeling on top form, if he's not feeling the best condition-wise, he would end it as soon as he could.
Oh yeah, definitely. MVP's been known time and time again to actually bring out those sneaky little tactics when he wants to. But for now, he's actually just going to be opening up with CC first on the high ground. Now, obviously, we've seen some builds to actually deal with this. I don't know if Ret's the kind of player to actually go for that. He's more to just going to sit back and just go drone, 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 drone and be happy and just play as greedy, if not more greedy.
Yeah, I mean, he's, you know, went up to 16 supply, then decided to throw down the spawning pool, and MVP already having to pull down an extra SCV to make sure this drone didn't disrupt, you know, the SCV build in the command center and barracks. But one thing to keep in mind, I did speak to both players before, and it is important for you guys to know this as well. First of all, Ret, as mentioned, is feeling confident today to even win the group. He feels great against Protoss, so no matter what happens, he would be playing a Protoss next if he was to win this game. But against MVP, like mentioned, he feels confident, he's beaten before, he can do it again. But he's playing some of the best StarCraft in his mind and his eyes that he's played for a very long time. So that, you know, that matter of consistency, maybe it doesn't even matter today if he feels like that. But on the other side of things, MVP, I managed to have a quick word with him before as I was taking pictures, like paparazzi as MC called me, who is also in the building somewhere. MVP said his condition's not good today. He feels very, you know, he's got the strain on the back of his neck, his injury. It's slowing him down a little bit. He didn't feel super confident going into the games and was even a little bit worried about not advancing from today. He says if he was able to, you know, he just traveled in yesterday, by the way, last night.
That's tough.
So he said if he was able to get a couple of days and get going in a rhythm, it would start to resolve itself a little bit, but he's not feeling the best at the moment.
We'll see if he can kind of alleviate any of those worries here as he goes up against arguably a very formidable foe in terms of his past results that he's had against him. But as you said before, this is an entirely different game. This is Heart of the Swarm, but Ret has shown, again, you said that he's showing, he's playing the best StarCraft that he's played for a long time. And technically, if you look at statistics, not to quote any numbers, but you look at his graph of results, there was a big dip before Heart of the Swarm, and then when Heart of the Swarm comes out, there's a big rocket back up in terms of results for Ret. So it really does feel like he's got to grasp with the technical aspects of Heart of the Swarm very much so stronger than other players here.
Yeah, let's hope he can, you know, rely on that today for sure, because it will be difficult. This is a difficult group. But looking at both the strategies, Ret not opting for any aggression whatsoever. 4 queens, doesn't have the best drone count immediately because he did get 2 extra queens here, but it will have very nice creep spread. And of course now the gas is coming down to get Zergling speed, to get potentially the Zergling upgrades as well. We're taking a 3rd base. And MVP is playing exactly the same, but Terranized. You know, he's got his 3rd command center down, he's focusing very heavily on his own economy, not so much aggression. And you know, the first game of the series, the first game of the round of 16 will be a long one. It's going to be nice.
And I mean, if you think back to having MVP in our studios for season 1, you can remember just how impenetrable and hard it was to actually break a player like MVP in this matchup. Once he gets into that macro game, once he gets into the full rhythm of things, he is very, very scary to actually thwart. And unfortunately for Dimaga and the likes of TLO and Stefano last season, they were at the hands of that. And now Rhett has to disprove that theory entirely.
At the moment, Rhett hasn't really found out what's going on. He's seen these double engineering bays, only just now spotting the third command center. He did throw down a Roach Warren early. MVP has been known in Terran vs. Zerg to go for weird Marauder Hellion builds, Marauder Hellbat builds. So I feel that the Roach Warren is definitely a safety precaution here, and I really don't think Rhett's the type of player which would go over towards Roach Hydra play. And a scan comes down from MVP who sees that very thing, the Roach Warren double evolution chamber. As these complete, I think we should be seeing the melee upgrades for the Zerglings, and as the lair begins soon, the Baneling Nest as well. But of course, it very easily could be for Roach upgrades. We'll see as it does complete.
Yeah, it depends how threatened he does feel, you're right with that. And there you go, there's those melee upgrades. So Rhett knows that despite there's probably being those Hellions out in the middle of the map,
these Hellions are out, but there's no units. If you look at the units tab, there is 1 Zergling and 4 Queens. MVP doesn't know this, of course, and then Rhett only just now starting 4 Roaches. I think that potentially could have been an opportunity, an opening for MVP to take, but he just didn't know.
Yes.
How can you know unless he pokes up there?
Exactly, it's so hard to know. And with the 4 Queen opening for Rhett here, he has great creep spread already going out into the middle of the map, so he has a lot of vision to actually deny this initially. But he transferred his drones over to that third and thus does lose a few of those and spots the Roaches as well. Those Hellions going to have to get out of there. Can't do too much more damage to any kind of economy, but would like to see that 4th base.
And Rhett immediately starts that 4th base with 10 drones as well. And yeah, I mean, this is a good start for both players. I mean, it was nice to see that MVP could find a couple of drone kills there because Rhett was playing greedy. And it always is nice when a greedy player gets punished a little bit because there were no units out for a very, very long time there. But this game gonna slow down a little bit again.
Rhett making this creep spread happen, slightly supply blocked here with that, and those Roaches still bottled up a little bit. 4 Overlords in production.
4 Overlords in production and Roach speed on the way as well here. Granted, he is a little bit supply blocked at 94 supply, but he's building 7 in total. Is he just going to build a bunch of Roaches and Lings now? He's got the Baneling Nest finish. He doesn't have Baneling speed though, which obviously is not going to be great for his Banelings, but Roach speed is finishing up here. Is it just because Rhett was supply blocked? He's like saying, well, I'm not going to get supply blocked again, but there is Baneling speed on the way.
This is interesting. He's adding on the macro hatch as well. I guess he wants to type it out with, well, I mean, with that to actually get the reinforcements there eventually, but that's certainly going to be a lot of units if he wants to go for it. 7
and
Overlords.
Look at his creep spread is very focused through the middle of the map as well here. He is adding on a couple more drones, but I think we could be seeing a big Roach Baneling attack very soon as those 2 speed upgrades start to align. A very high economy attack, but it's definitely possible. As MVP is adding on tanks though, as we did see, that's going to be very difficult for Rhett to break on that 3rd base.
Certainly is. No upgrades going on for that 2-2. Just starts that +2 weapons there as well though, and the Hellions trying to poke around at the left-hand side, trying to do some damage. Pneumatized Carapace starts here. If he went for Ventral Sack, I'd actually be super happy.
Can't be. It can't be. There's too many Marines at this point. They just got shut down. But there's the Zergling production. A 3rd evolution chamber is a little bit surprising here from Rhett. It seems like he's actually blocked in there. I'm not exactly sure what that's about, but he does start another one. But things to notice: no Spire, no +2 Carapace. No kind of longevity in his game, but it's all now. A lot of Zerglings are being made. MVP has to be careful. I think there's more units than actually fit in those 2 medivacs. If he was to lose a big chunk of his army and then have to deal with a counterattack, I'm not sure if he'd be able to do it. This is a very tense moment here for the Dutch player.
That's an absolute ton of Zerglings being produced, but these Hellions going to go for an assault as well and killing off quite a few drones in their entirety. Killing off 7 in total. Will pull on back for now. Unfortunately, they're going to get cleaned up to these Zerglings and the Roaches, but at the same time, MVP launching a secondary attack here at that 4th base. Should be able to shut this down. I think that hatchery might end up dying. Oh, those Banelings have to be very, very careful.
Yeah, and Rhett does save it, and he does pick up, but that's a lot of units that'll get left out there as expected. He didn't quite have enough to evacuate, and Rhett does hit him quite hard. And in the production tab, 18 drones. Good God, Rhett. He's already at 72 with 18 on the way. And well, I guess if we question whether he's going for an attack or not, it doesn't look like it with that many drones. But still, no Spire, only just now throwing down the infestation pit, only just now putting +2 Carapace down. I'm feeling a little bit worried here for Rhett. Unless he morphs a bunch of Banelings and goes for an attack now, he's delayed a lot of his tech to build a lot of units, yet hasn't really done anything with them. Therefore, once MVP gets to 2-2 and is now ahead in upgrades, surely that is good for MVP.
Exactly. The upgrade advantage going in Terran's favor here is absolutely terrifying for Rhett, and he has to do something about that. He has to make some damage happen, maybe at the third base, maybe try and crush through his opponent's army with a lot of banelings. Like you said, drops the scan, sees the status of the infestation pit, only now just finishing up here. And he knows that if he starts 3-3, his 3-3 is always going to be much quicker than his opponents, despite not seeing 2-2 yet.
Look at how many Zerglings Rhett has. 148, with more on the way. And now the infestation pit does start to research pathogen glands. A hive started immediately. And he is getting +1 missile attacks as well here, considering he can't really research anything at this point. But I think he will be looking to go over to the Ultralisk pit quite fast here. But still, the cost efficiency with these Marines at 2-2, without too many Banelings here.
The Zerglings want to try and get a good surround here. Stims on back, tries to get away from this. He's going to try and go for the entire wraparound. He does get quite a lot of it, but there's not that many Banelings to actually help on out. That's so much firepower from MVP. Should push those Zerglings away, and does. And those drops to left to the right.
Drops to the left to the right, and also Rhett set up a counterattack on the right-hand side of Banelings, going towards the third base. If these can get into the mineral line, this would be a nice strike here for Rhett. Can he get in? Is MVP going to respond?
Oh, he does, and he actually pulls a lot of it away. Even lifts off the orbital command to save the HP on that as well as some of those SCVs getting away on that right-hand side. The drop goes down, but MVP not controlling it as thoroughly, and does lose the medevac. Only the Marines not really doing a whole lot. Kills off a few creep tumors, and that drop in the main as well.
Yeah, drop coming down into the main here. That will do a bit of damage, but a lot of Banelings are being morphed here for Red. He needs to get back to defend. He does send in a couple of Zerglings, but here comes a push out from MVP. Very, very strong in the middle of the map, though.
Oh, Zergling's trying to go for the wraparound. Those Banelings trying to crash on in, but he picks up a lot of those units regardless and saves them. But Rhett does push that back for now. The only thing I'm still scared for Rhett is, like we said before, that 3-3 for MVP rocketing out right now for the Terran. And that's going to be very, very scary. The Ultras cabin has gone down.
Yeah, still a very close game at this point, with MVP now throwing down his fourth base. That always wants to be denied. On the right-hand side, a couple of Banelings may have got in there as we caught the tail end of it. That's another nice attack. Look at that. A good amount of SCVs being killed.
Good shots there. 70 workers to 74 right now. Of course, that is backed up by mules for MVP, so he will kind of equalize up that a little bit. But with that now, MVP still moving around, trying to get his fourth base up to the south whilst moving out with these Widow Mines. But Rhett already has an idea and an inkling as to how many Widow Mines his opponent already has, so he can technically try and prepare.
These Widow Mines, they could get some big hits off here. Rhett sends in a couple of Zerglings, one Widow Mine, 2-3. Oh, that's nice there for Rhett. And he immediately picks up this opportunity, goes straight for it.
Oh, great split there with the Zerglings actually moving on forwards. Really didn't lose that much for those Widow Mines at all. A very, very strong move by Rhett. Even the Zerglings just deflecting that entire drop in the main as well. Trying to get down to his third, realizing that's a point of contention here as MVP tries to drop once again. Needs to keep those infestors alive, doesn't want to lose those.
Yeah, good position here for the Marines though. Gonna get a lot of damage done behind this mineral line. A couple of Banelings do come in at the same time. MVP finds the fourth base.
He's all over the place right now. This is fantastic here by MVP. Kills off the hatchery. A very, very nice snipe there indeed, as those Zerglings will push this back once again, picks everything up and runs away.
I mean, it's really nice harassment play coming in from MVP, dropping all over the place, picking off that fourth, but he still doesn't have a very super strong army yet. He's down in supply. MVP needs to be very careful. It depends on how many tanks and Widow Mines he has defensively set at home. There's not really too much defending that planetary either, and if Rhett was good to go in there and bring that down.
Well, the Zerglings is going to move on forwards here to try and surround a lot of this. Widow Mines once again being detonated very, very nicely here by Rhett. He soaks up a lot of that with just a few Zerglings. The Banelings, though, do not get the connections that they want. MVP will push it back for now. Yeah. And he's taking a little bit of a supply lead here.
He has taken a bit of a supply lead there. Rhett really didn't do too much with that attack, but he does start his Ultralisk cavern. As 2 Ultralisks are on the way. 3. And, I mean, if you look at the Ultralisk count, the Marauder count's so high as well here. It's currently sitting at 14, and now MVP does manage to get that fourth base down. Likewise, Rhett, not with the best income, quite low in minerals because of that fourth base going down.
This is, yeah, you're right. I mean,
I do like the position for MVP still with that fourth base down. His economy's been hurt a little bit. He's had to put a Widow Mine on the right-hand side and a tank to prevent the harassment from going in here, but still, I like MVP's position.
All these drops do keep getting spotted by these Overlords, so Rhett has very, very good vision of what actually is going on the map here. One of the Banelings, well, as well as that tank, cleaning up everything there. Those, unfortunately, the SCVs do not die there for Rhett. But again, these drops have been spotted, so Rhett should be able to react to them accordingly as the Ultralisks just keep marching around. These drop scans.
It's actually going to be very important for Rhett to land the right fungals. If he lands the right fungals on this army, and if MVP isn't spread out as much as he could be, then Rhett with Banelings and Ultralisk will kill this army. He will do it, but it's whether he lands those fungals.
And well, he's going to poke in here to the 4th base. Ultralisk does move out here, and actually he's just going to move in straight from the back as well. But a lot of Banelings has to connect with the siege tanks at the back. That's not exactly the connection that he wants to get there, but that's a lot of Ultralisk tanking a lot of damage and will clean up that bio. But the bio has been stimming in from the back, getting those infestors. A great snipe out there for MVP, despite losing the majority of his army. Traded blow for blow with him.
That was not a good fight for Rhett. Not good at all. Loses all his infestors. They didn't get the fungals necessary, and there's drops going on the natural in the main, an attack on the 4th base. This is a very, very powerful move here from MVP, and this actually could be game-ending.
Very, very powerful indeed here. Even if he was to get that infestation pit, that would be fantastic, but he's already limited a lot of Rhett's income here. The Alpin's terms of supply by far right now is MVP, showing why he is an absolute monster to compete with in this matchup. Despite a bit of a shaky start, still just rocketing ahead in the mid-game.
Yeah, and an Ultralisk just gets in there, and well, that's not going to do too much. Likewise for that Queen, and maybe the Ultralisk behind it as well, as MVP has just cracked open Rhett, and well, the floodgates are open and damage is being dealt. The 4th base goes down, the 3rd base as well, with reinforcements coming across the map, and MVP with finally gets a decent Widowmine hit in this game.
Yeah, and I mean, with that Widowmine connection goes away a lot of the tanking potential for these Ultralisks to try and get towards this army as well to do some damage. And good in the connections down here for Rhett to try and bring himself back in, but there you go, GG for game number 1. MVP showing why he is an absolute monster. And Rhett, he's got to change things up for game number 2.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he... Okay, so I do agree with that, and also a little bit not, because I think that he should stay the same, but also change things up just a little bit. But I feel that MVP, and I'll be honest here, I don't think he played the best game we've seen from him there.
That's true.
I really don't think he was that dominant. I think Rhett could have very easily taken that series, depending on the fights and whatnot. He did lose a 4th base a little bit earlier on. He did have a very heavy mid-tier army, which didn't accomplish too much for him, because at that stage, you either need to do damage or at least kill off a big chunk of his army, which neither really happened. Therefore, a lot of his tech was delayed in that game. He was always going to be able to defend any push-outs from MVP, and he even caught a couple of units in the middle there when we saw those 2 medivacs weren't enough to pick everything up.
No, I think you're right there. I mean, I'm no expert on analyzing body positions and kind of fluctuations in face muscles and things like that, but right here, he doesn't look that phased right now.
Yeah.
He looks at that first game, and I think he pretty much says exactly what you said. Just a few little alterations here and there.
Nothing too drastic.
Little controls, moves, and then he should be able to be a bit more focused.
There's definitely 2 ways to lose a game. You either get absolutely hammered and destroyed, and you feel like, oh my god, how do I beat him?
Yeah.
Or you lose to a few little mistakes, and then you're like, you know what? If we, maybe if I just tightened up the bolts a little bit in that game, it probably wouldn't have collapsed as much as it did here.
Yeah.
So I think that this game, this next one, is definitely not too far out of Rhett's reach if he wants to make this comeback possible.
I certainly agree here. Well, the countdown's begun here for game number 2. Newkirk Precinct will be our map as we get loaded in. Will Rhett be able to bring this series back? MVP, the current champion of WCS EU, looking to take the series 2-0 as we now jump in to game number 2 here between MVP and Rhett. So we'll get in just a second. MVP looking focused and good to go.
He's a destroyer. He destroyed the Zergs when it came to the round of 8 last season, Kalaris. And he's destroying another one here so far. We'll see if he can continue the trend.
And we'll see. Very hot here right now. You can see our players a bit sweaty.
MVP's used to it, man.
He's used to it.
He lives in Korea, man.
I'm liking his shorts. Very cool shorts. Anyway, spawning down at the bottom right-hand corner here as our blue Zerg. Once again, representing the Netherlands and Team Liquid. Give it up for Liquid Rhett. And down to the bottom left-hand corner as our red Terran, representing Korea and LGIM. Give it up for MVP.
MVP last season, if I just bring some maybe painful memories back to a couple of people. 3-0 TLO, 3-0 Damaga with a grand final with 4 wins to 1 against Stefano. And that's a decent record. That's a very strong record. 10 map wins to just 1 loss in a day, I think it was?
Yeah, pretty much. A day or 2.
Day or 2.
Yeah.
Just absolute domination. And so far, he's kicked things off in the Season 2 in the round of 16. Pretty good, too. In the round of 32, boy, we should talk about the round of 32 for MVP.
Oh, yeah.
He was the only Korean that had to play with the latency issue that looked like he didn't have to.
Yeah.
And looked amazing.
One of the most insane comebacks we've seen for a long time against Tefel, who is here in the round of 16.
Yep.
But still, it was a little bit shaky there for MVP. But you're right. Time and time again, MVP just said, it's macro game time, man. So we saw a lot of our Koreans just saying, it's one base time, man. I'm just gonna go straight for it.
Yeah, and they did. They went straight for it. And even Aniwa got in there too, didn't he?
Yep.
But, you know, if we look at Ret as an individual when it comes to just StarCraft 2, for me, before Heart of the Swarm, I would say one of the most consistent Zerg players. Maybe not a heavy hitter like Stefano, and maybe not a heavy hitter like Nurture as well, a very strong performer. But he was very consistent. A lot of semi-final finishes, a lot of quarterfinals, a lot of round of 16s. But when it comes to Heart of the Swarm, he did make a big splash at the first tournament he played in, which was the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship.
Yep.
And he was using Swarm hosts. He was, you know, talking smack to Koreans on stage. Was telling Youngwire, I hope you're better than your friends because I'm going to beat you as well. And he was making a big name. He was, you know, doing well for himself. But apart from that, you know, Red's had, you know, a disappointing DreamHack run so far. Round of 32, round of 64, round of 32, not even making it to the bracket stage. And for a player of his caliber, absolutely should be top 16, top 8 in almost every single one of those tournaments.
Yeah, it's a far cry from when we previously, I think it's probably almost 2 years ago now, that we saw him winning an assembly against Morrow in the finals over in Finland. And that's really been Ret's biggest result ever. And that was a long time ago, guys, now here. So Ret is looking for that win. He is always striving for that top finish. And it's funny that we always say that, you know, his results been inconsistent, but that's because we peg him as someone who is supposed to be one of those players that's always finishing in those top areas. So for Ret here, he's got to prove himself.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, he's feeling confident against Protoss and even against MVP. So we'll see if he can put that confidence into actual results today. As we do have a bit of a different setup for MVP. He's taken a second gas earlier. Is this a classic blue flame attack from MVP that he loves to use? Is it, you know, a Banshee build that's becoming quite popular again now? Is it potentially going over towards an armory for a bit of a surprise? But one thing to keep in mind, he saw Ret decide to build a Roach Warren very early last game. Why would he decide to go blue flame in this game now?
And it's certainly a very interesting position that he's thrown down this star pot, because he's spotted with SCVs where his opponent's overlords were and tries to throw the star pot in a bit more of a weird location to try and throw that off. And it's been successful. He actually hasn't seen this star pot just yet. Very, very good positioning here by MVP. Is going to take Ret a little bit by surprise here from what he's actually initially seen.
This could be brutal because Widowmines are coming out. The Menivac is not going to be spotted, and depends on where it goes. Does it dart in between the balloon overlords here, or does it go straight past one? But either way, there's no layer down, there's no detection if this gets burrowed. Of course, he can build a spore crawl at any time, but it's going to take quite a while to get down there. And MVP could surprise Ret behind this third command center is coming down, which Ret has seen, but he just doesn't really know what this is.
An interesting choice here for Ret. I haven't seen Burrow this quick in this matchup for quite a while. What do you think he's going to be using this for?
I think because he spotted the second gas, I think it may be protection for his drones and queens, if it was to be a Banshee or something along those lines. But here comes the Medivac. One Overlord is going to spot it here. And of course, MVP should want to, you know, get ready to boost in a couple of seconds once she passes this. He thinks it's Hellions.
Yeah, he
There's
definitely
no spores, man. If these get into the mineral lines, I'm telling you that. If these get into the mineral lines, this could be a quick game because he would lose a lot.
He certainly would. Even if he doesn't lose a lot of drones, he's going to lose a lot of mining time. And the Widow Mines do actually drop in here, not expecting that. This entire mineral line's actually going to get completely shut down. Some good connections, not really being as cost effective as I was expecting them to have. Layer now morphs in here. It's going to try and spread them out a bit.
Well, already 10 kills. That's a good start. That's a good start here. And Spore Crawler's having to come down as well. So I definitely think that MVP, and I know, I don't think, I know that this is giving MVP a lead here for sure.
Yeah, and by that point, I mean, Ret just did not expect this at all. His reactions were slow to what is currently happening. Spreading out these Widow Mines everywhere means that, well, he gets a few more kills for his trouble, but it just shuts down extra mining time that he necessarily wouldn't have. 18 workers already.
What a fantastic start here for MVP, who has his double engineering bay down. He's got his command center, his third one. He's lost hardly anything yet in this game. A fantastic start here for the reigning champion. And we'll see if he's able to continue through, because so far I'm loving it. This is a great start for him.
Yeah, fantastic decision making. Slight little mind games in terms of positioning of buildings, but that's what makes a very, very strong player here. Able to read into your opponent well enough to then hide buildings to some degree and just hide what you want to do against Ret. And now Ret, the one thing he does have in his favor is a slight upgrade advantage, but with the production facilities that MVP has behind this and trying to claim his third base. Nice little tidbit there for Ret, trying to block that base, but MVP's productions are going to be flying very, very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to use a scan here to put that down.
Speaking of flying.
Speaking of flying, yeah, we will be having some Mutalists out soon, and that's going to test MVP's timing, his defense timing, whether he gets his turrets down or not, whether he sees it's coming or not. He is forced to scan to get rid of that zone, but 97 to supply to a supply block 84, with this Viking going around picking up a couple of kills where he can.
Very, very annoying. He did get pneumatized carapace though, so can bring the majority of his overlords back to defenses of queens if he needs it, as well as even spore crawlers that should be able to zone out for just a little bit. Does not get that overlord, so Ret does save that in the end. Very, very important. Losing overlords at this point, whilst your opponent is going for even more aggression with this drop play, you don't want to be getting supply blocks in the middle of that, trying to produce units to deflect this kind of attack.
Yeah, quite frustrating, as Ret does just about spot those units moving out, or medivacs moving out, so he should be there to defend against this. But with just circlings at this point, there is a Widow Mine in there too. Depending on the Widow Mine hit, could depend on how well this does.
Well, that's a lot of units here. Baneling's only just being morphed in, and MVP actually sees that as well, so he just drops straight around this queen. Could even go for these Banelings even, and kill those off. Forces the cancellation at least here. That's a lot of Zerglings. Oh, a good Widow Mine connection will kill off quite a few of them. Widow Mine does go down, but again, not too bad a trade there for MVP.
MVP is starting to toy around a little bit with Ret here, dropping where he can. It's, you know, he's not worried about losing that drop. There's no Mutalisk even been started yet here for Red. Crew spread being stopped as the Spire is finished on that side.
In best defense, he has saved up a lot of gas for Mutalisk transition to come along, but once they do come along, does he even have enough units on the ground to actually back those up as well as try and do the damage he needs to? I don't think he's seen the Spire, has he? So technically, he has not seen the Spire, so
he might get surprised by a good Mutalisk flock if they were to hit the main base or something.
We'll see if that happens here. MVP going for the drops once again, and the fact that Ret's fourth base is only kind of just now gathering a little bit of speed means that his income, arguably trying to rival MVP's here whilst he moves out into the middle of the map. Good burrow placement though by Ret's, actually spotting those units moving out.
You know, preventing bases from coming down, seeing the movement out here from MVP. But Ret needs to grab momentum back in this game. He actually needs to get momentum back, otherwise he will lose 2-0. It's starting to happen from the get-go, losing 20 drones, and here comes a big push from MVP. Somehow, some way, Ret needs to find a way around the Widow Mines, away to the Marines. Otherwise, things are getting sticky. Yeah,
you're right. Those Banelings really, really need to connect here, but those Widow Mines are so well placed. Tearing on back here. A good connection with those Widow Mines, actually catching some of the Banelings at the front. Banelings trying to go in from the back as well, and the Banelings at the front do not get the big connections that they want to, as MVP pushes on consistently forwards here into this fourth base, killing off drone after drone, and he's going to get the fourth as well. A great move by MVP.
Just a classic, setup from MVP. Gets a lead, keeps dropping, keeps putting the pressure on, moves out with an army that he doesn't think can be stopped. It wasn't a timing per se, because his 2-2 isn't ready. It was like, you don't really have that much. You're morphing a lot of Banelings defensively. Oh my gosh, I don't know what happened there, but 14 SCVs were killed. That's something that's nice, to try to get momentum back. But as a Terran player and as a Zerg player here, you have to kill a big army from the Terran player, otherwise it's going to snowball. He needs to find that here, maybe.
Yeah, those Banelings need to connect once again, but the Widowmines are still there to hold that off. And with these more Banelings actually morphing in, they still need to get traction. They need to get good connections. But MVP, with the defensive setup he finds himself in, spreads himself thin. It's as if he's defending, and he sets up.
MVP's coming for the win. It's that simple. He says, all right, you're going to come for one last attack. I know you have to kill my entire army if you want to live in this game. Bring it on.
Well, he comes in from either side here with those Zerglings and Banelings moving forwards, but the Marines are so perfectly spread here that it's going to be hard to actually shut this down. There's a few Mutilers trying to kill off these remaining Marines, but that's so much firepower he has there. The Zerglings tanking quite a bit of damage, but it's not enough. With 2-2 here out for these Marines, moving on forwards, marching on forwards. What can you do to shut down MVP?
You can't. Not anymore. You absolutely can't. As MVP destroys the last couple of Mutilers here, cracks into the third base mineral line. GG is called an MVP, opens up the round of 16 with a 2-0 victory over Red, and to be honest, quite convincingly.
With a bang.
As Red grits his teeth there, realizes that game was just a little bit one-sided from the get-go. From those Widowmines getting in, which were never spotted. You pointed it out, the Starport was never spotted. He didn't know it was coming, and a little twist in MVP's build makes sure he picks up the 2-0.
Very, very strong performance by the reigning champion thus far here. But it's not over for Rhett yet. It is not over by any means. He still has opportunities to advance on. Such is the dual tournament format here as MVP. Looking very strong. He goes up against only Protoss for a little bit now. And we'll see how he's going to fare against either Hasu or Grubby.
Yeah, that could cause him a little bit more difficulty. He spoke about it in the past MVP, that he does find it hard to control Ghost versus High Templar. And Grubby and Hasyobs are definitely players that can drag it out long. They will make the game go long, and they will force that issue, force the pain over to MVP. So despite his 2-0 against Red, you know, it could not end, keep going in the way that it's going for him.
You're right. All right, guys. Well, we have an interview with the man himself after that win, Mr. MVP. So we'll send it over to Paul.
I think he is fine. Good. It's not loud at all.
Yeah, but we will be going over there in a second, Claris. Don't worry. And looks like he is now, so take it away, Red Eye.
Yes, thank you very much. With the winner, well played, Jürgen. Good game. I love the fact that you like that nickname. That's fantastic. Talk us through, firstly, map 1 was quite a long map. Would it be fair to say that you were a little shaky in map 1? Or did you feel like you had it under control?
첫 번째 판 좀 힘들었는지 그냥
첫 번째 판 할 때 뭐 실수도 좀 많이 하고 그래가지고 조금 힘들었는데 그래도 뭐 잘 된 것 같아요.
So at the first map he did a lot of mistakes, but yeah, that's why it was kind of hard, kind of a long and tough game. But yeah, at the end he managed to win it.
Okay, talk to us about how you managed to win that first map. What made the difference for you? Was it the 3-base drop at the same time?
첫 번째 판에 너가 처음에 좀 힘들었다고 했잖아. 실수 많이 해서. 근데 어떻게 이겼는지, 언제 너가 지금 이겼다고 생각했는지.
의료선으로 견제했을 때 견제가 잘 먹히고 12시 쪽에 네 번째 멀티를 깼을 때 이겼다고 생각했어요.
Well, obviously Medivac drops, and when he cancelled the expo on 12 o'clock, when he killed it, then he knew, okay, I got this game.
Second map was very efficient. There was no problems. It seems like everything went your way. Was that how it was for you?
두 번째 판 그냥 쉽게 이겼는데 그냥 그렇게 생각해놨는지 그렇게 하려고.
처음에 그 마인 드랍했을 때 그걸로 피해를 많이 줘서 무난하게 이길 거라고 생각했어요. 그게 빌드가 많이 갈려가지고 그거에 그 일벌레가 많이 잡히면 저거가 굉장히 힘들거든요. 그래가지고 그때 이길 거라고 생각했고, 그리고 이 맵에서 이 빌드가 좋아서 무난하게 이길 것 같았어요.
So after his Widowmine drop and he killed a lot of drones, he knew like, okay, now I have a huge advantage and I can just play it smooth and I'm gonna win it. And actually this build that he used with the Widowmine drop, it's really good on this map, and that's why he used it, and it was really efficient.
Okay, last question. Who do you want, Hasyobs or Grubby? Which do you prefer?
누구랑 만나고 싶은지, 하수업스 아니면 Grubby?
두 선수 다 잘하는 선수라 아직 모르겠는데 그냥 어차피 토스기 때문에 아무나 올라와도 상관없을 것 같고 누가 올라오든 꼭 2승으로 올라가고 싶어요.
So both are good players, and it actually doesn't matter who comes up because both are Protoss players, and he just want to finish with as number one in this group, so he doesn't really care.
All right, well done. He's got his new pin on his chest as well. He's hoping to add, well, not another pin, but another title to his list. So congratulations to Jürgen, aka MVP. Winner of our first game. We're going to take a very short break. When we come back, you will not want to miss this one. It's Hasselhobbs versus Grubby.